Let's start with a disclaimer. I haven't seen Clone Wars and Rebels. Well, I have started, but I haven't gone around to finishing the shows yet. I intend to, but be aware that my opinion on Ahsoka is purely based on what I see in the show. And what I have seen didn't increase my urgency to watch those cartoons, actually. This is the review of champions, and I'm your host, Grandmaster. With me is a powerful panel made up of the finest champions Sakar has to offer. Let me introduce them to you. First up, the man with the hat, Mr. Taylor first. How are you, man?
Hey, looking good.
And showing his beautiful face on camera, as always, Merv. How are you, man?
Fantastic.
That's great to hear. Today we're going to talk about part one, Master and Apprentice, and part two, Toil and Trouble of Ahsoka, the new Star Wars Disney Plus show. But before we do, I want to ask you all to help us out. Like and share this video and subscribe to our channel. And if you really can't get enough of us, you can join our ranks. Go to Sakar at sakar.freeforms.net, set up that account, get to know us. And yes, you can even join us in our reviews or podcasts. We would love to have you on the show. Consider this your final warning. After this point, the spoilers are incoming. So if you haven't seen this week's episodes yet, go do that first and then check out our review. Ahsoka Tano. She's looking for Grand Admiral Thrawn and Ezra Bridger. And a map leads her to her former apprentice, Sabine Wren. But another party is also interested in finding Thrawn and clearly not to do good. Well, if you don't know our concept, we first do a few quick thoughts on both episodes. Then we take a deeper dive and we end with a rating. And for the first quick thoughts, I go to Merv. Merv, did you enjoy the first two episodes of Ahsoka?
Very much so. A lot more than I honestly expected to. I rewatched them both like just a few hours ago, and I was struggling to find too many real complaints about it. Just about everything either met my standards or exceeded them. I just think it's a really promising start to this series for sure.
Okay, Taylor, what did you think?
I like the first two episodes as well. It feels like classic Star Wars at this point. I like the cast. I think the story has a lot of potential. I also I never watched Rebels, or haven't yet watched Rebels. I've watched some of Clone Wars, so I'm not familiar with all of the characters and their backstory. But so far that doesn't matter. At least to me, it hasn't mattered. I've seen lots of movies where the characters have history, and you haven't seen it, but you're able to follow the story, and they say what they need to say to reference things in the past. So far, I'm not having any problems as far as not having seen Rebels yet. But the first two episodes I thought were really good. I think the cast especially is really good, and like I said, I think the story has a lot of potential at this point.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I did think it was a little bit boring to me. I mean, it was not. Now, boring is not the right word. It was fine. It was nothing special to me. I do agree. There's a lot of potential. The cast is great and doing what they need to do, and very enjoyable. But yeah, it wasn't spectacular or anything to me, and but it could also be my mindset. I actually was so on this show beforehand, and I didn't feel an urgency to watch it right away, and my expectations were met in that regard. And yeah, maybe that's not fair from my side, but I agree with Merv. I don't have any real complaints about the show. There's nothing bad about it. It's just that, yeah, it didn't grab me just yet. Although it is well written, well acted, well executed, the action is fine. So not much to complain about. But let's do a deeper dive, Taylor. Let's have it. Did you find negatives about the show, or was it all good?
There was one negative for me.
Okay.
Sabine Wren.
Mm-hmm.
Supposed to like this brat?
Yeah.
Because I don't. And I don't know what it is with Hollywood these days that they think we like. First of all, she's a grown adult, but she acts like a teenage brat. And Hollywood seems to think that's something that we like. I mean, J.J. Abrams did it to Captain Kirk in his Star Trek movies. He made him act like a teenager. I thought, I mean, in the opening scene of her, she'd obviously made a commitment to be at that ceremony. And she left the governor hanging. She left that crowd of people who were standing out in the sun to see her, left them hanging, at least partially to see her, left them hanging, and then took off. And then when they go looking for her, she has the gall to pull the, oh, was that today? I would have slapped her if I was her father. You know? I mean, and then later, Ahsoka gives her the map. The map does not leave this ship. Don't go anywhere. Okay, I won't go anywhere. Now, I have met this character 5 minutes ago, and I knew she was going to take off with that map because they've established that she's a lying little brat.
You're responsible.
Maybe there'll be a redemption arc for her. I have my doubts because like I said, I've seen how Hollywood does with these characters lately, so I'm not too hopeful that she'll have some sort of redemption arc and see the light and be, take some responsibility for herself and her actions. But maybe she will, and that would be great. But so far, I did not like that character much at all. Everything else in the episode I thought was pretty darn great. I thought the action scenes were good. I thought the villains were all good, including Ray Stevenson and his Padawan, and the witch who we'd seen in The Mandalorian before. And speaking of which, I don't know if, like I said, I don't know if the cartoons ever had these witches in them before. I do remember that one of the Ewok movies actually had a witch, and those aren't bad movies, though they are aimed at a somewhat younger audience than most Star Wars stuff is. But they are actually, there's some really dark stuff in those movies too, but they are still aimed at a younger audience. But they did have a witch, so it's not unprecedented, at least in the Star Wars universe. But yeah, I thought the action scenes were good. I thought Ahsoka Tano was good. I mean, Rosario Dawson, I'm a big fan of her work anyway, and I think she's doing really well here. I liked the scene in the second episode where they went to the shipyards, and it turns out there were a bunch of Imperial loyalists running things there, and that's how they're able to get that engine they need to go and find Grand Admiral Thrawn if I'm following the story properly. But I thought that was a pretty good scene. I think all the action scenes were quite good. I saw some people online saying they weren't as big and as spectacular as some other Star Wars action scenes, and that's probably true. But I think in the situation we're in now, we're not to the point where we're going to have that huge and that spectacular of action scenes in the first two episodes. So all in all, I think the acting's good. I think has done a good job of setting things up. I think all the production values are good. And you gotta think about it, because like we're so used to seeing all this stuff that we really forget just how difficult it is to create all this CGI stuff. And it's a mix of CGI and practical effects, which of course is that much harder too. But we forget just how difficult it is to make these spaceships that are not real to look real, and they're flying real, and the lasers look real, and the flying through the air and all that stuff. So I always like to take a moment and just think about, wow, that's really hard. It always reminds me of like ventriloquists. I don't know, that probably sounds weird, right? But people always judge ventriloquists on how funny their jokes are, not on how good of a ventriloquist they are. The guy is having a conversation with himself in two different voices, and he's not moving his lips. That's pretty freaking impressive to me. And you're criticizing because you didn't laugh enough. I feel the same way in these types of movies with these huge, incredible special effects that are so detailed and so intricate and so difficult to do, that I always like to give a little bit of shout out to at least the effort, even if the story isn't good, which this one so far is. But even if the story isn't so good, I got to give them an A for effort, And like Avatar, same thing. Story's not so great, but hey, man, they really worked hard on those effects.
Yeah. Visually, that movie is great. But
at least the story is good. At least the story is good. So yeah, I'm pretty happy, and I'm excited for next week.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I must say I really enjoyed the effects with the star map. I thought that actually looked excellent and beautiful and really enhanced the experience of the show for me in that regard. And again, no real complaints about anything actually. But Murph, you had a hard time finding anything negative, so you can rave about the show now.
Well, I did have one thing.
Oh.
It was the only thing that I found. There was some inconsistent dialogue in regards to Sabine actually being at the thing or not ever showing up at the thing that she was supposed to appear at. The senator that was supposedly standing right next to her said she was just here, and then later on, there's a lot of conversations that make it sound like she never even bothered to show up. So maybe it was just that senator being an idiot. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. But I was like, yeah, that's a little odd. And I don't know why I noticed that right away. But I was just like, that guy said she was there, and it just bugged me the rest of the episode. But yeah, I mean, I just have to double down on the cast is excellent here. And I didn't even realize that Balin was Ray Stevenson until the end, and it said thank you Ray or whatever, to our friend Ray, and I was like, oh yeah, that was him the whole time, and I really liked his character, his character Balin and Shin, their dynamic gave me a very like anti Obi-Wan Luke dynamic there, especially him. He felt like an Obi-Wan character that was just on the other side of things, like more so than any other evil character that I've ever seen. And they had orange lightsabers, which I thought was really cool. And I don't know the significance of that, but they were using orange instead of red. So maybe that means something.
Maybe they were F1 fans and they are kind of tired of Max Verstappen winning everything. yeah, I'm Dutch too. So, but orange is evil.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they're just not as evil as red. I don't know. But I definitely think, as far as characters go, I'll triple down on the. I've seen one season of Clone Wars, none of Rebels. So a lot of these characters here and a lot of the little like Easter egg type things that I'm assuming other people who have seen these cartoons are picking up on. I'm not really getting that, but it's not really detracting much. I'm sure it's just an extra bit of icing on the cake, so to speak. If I were to pick up some of these, old relationships.
If the show is good, it should only be the icing on the cake. I mean,
right.
This show needs to be good on its own accord and needs to be enjoyable for people who are not into cartoons, which I am actually, and I have seen the first 2 seasons of Clone Wars and started the third one actually, and watched the Bad Batch. It's not that I am opposed to cartoons. I just didn't didn't have time to watch it yet. But but that's not the point. The point is the show should be good enough on its own and should be enjoyable for everyone, people who have seen it and people who haven't seen it. Otherwise, they have failed from the get-go.
Absolutely. And I think at least as far as these first 2 episodes go, they nailed that because I didn't feel lost. You could feel if there was tension in old relationships or not. Like all that stuff was easy to pick up on. So kudos to them for letting me drop right in here with very little, knowledge of previous events or characters and being able to pick right up. And the characters are interesting on both sides of this fight. Like I already mentioned, Balin and Shin. Like they're to me more as interesting as Ahsoka and Sabine and all these other characters. So I really like that there feels like a lot of depth, like there's multiple characters on every side of this that I can really care about, and that I assume we'll see again, and it almost feels like at least on the heroes part, like we're building back that crew that I assume was in Rebels, or at least whichever ones are still alive and around. I don't know all the details there, but that's kind of the vibe I got from these first two episodes. Couple small things. I'm a big fan of droids. I think Star Wars droids and bounty hunters are always great. So the HK droids in this, I love them. I just think they're great. I love that they're around. For one, it's like a classic move that I remember from my childhood with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon, where if you throw a bunch of robots at it, you can have your heroes go full bore and they won't seem like maniacs, because we've got so many decapitated robots. But if those were people, even stormtroopers, it would probably feel a little different than droids. Nobody cares about droids, and I love it. But I think that just their style and even the way they sound and move, like they don't seem completely stupid either. Like they know that whenever they got to do something, they go to do it. And I don't know. I've been a fan of the HK droids from 15 years ago when I played the Knights of the Old Republic video games. You get to befriend one and potentially train him and whatever, just go on a murder spree with him. It was just great. But those stand out to me, all the HK droids that keep popping up as just cannon fodder for our heroes. I liked all the combat. There was a lot of lightsaber combat in these first two episodes, even if it was just one-sided, like the opening scene, like massacre of the Republic ship or whatever. But it's always fun to see the things waving around and people getting chopped up. And I especially liked Shin's use of her cloak whenever she was fighting Sabine. Like she used her cloak as a distraction or cover for where her weapon was. Like that little bit of touch adds a flavor, so it doesn't like that. She has a particular fighting style, and you can see it very easily. At least in that fight. And compared to like the Inquisitor in the next episode where he sheds his cloak right away because he doesn't fight that way, so he's fighting a whole different way. It's just those little things. If you're going to have as many lightsaber battles as we've already had, like just those little things make everyone feel a little bit different, and I definitely appreciate the nuance there.
Do you have any insights on how a boomerang lightsaber would work?
Outside of the Force, I don't know how boomerangs work in our world, let alone how they would work in a galaxies far, far away. So, whether or not it had something to do with his little beep beep armband thing, or he was actually just using the Force to pull it back to him, or I don't know how Captain America does it. I don't know how this guy does it. So boomerangs are a total mystery to me. Maybe if I was born in Australia, I'd understand them. But every time I throw a stick, it never comes back to me. So.
Yeah. You kind of expect Tom Holland to say this thing doesn't follow the laws of physics at all, or something like that. But anyway.
And just the last thing is I think the sound and the music are fantastic again. It feels like a broken record in regards to Star Wars stuff. Like even the stuff I don't really like has great music. And I think this is the same guy who did the music for all the animated stuff so far, like the Clone Wars, the Rebels, the Bad Batch, and Tales of the Jedi, or whatever that one was. And I just think it's great. Like the intro and the outro being a little bit different, like pacing wise, and just all the different sounds are fantastic. So props to all that stuff, because that just really gives me the immersion of this whole universe.
Yeah, absolutely. No. Yeah, again, I can say I didn't feel more urgency to watch those cartoons. That's true, but there was nothing really bad about it. It just didn't grab me, and I was really sad. So, and yeah, you guys already nailed everything, so fine. Yeah, I have actually nothing that is really urgent to discuss about this episode. This is something specific. I mean, the story is fine. I think the writing, as you said, Merv, is also great, because you immediately can follow the story. You immediately get a feel for the character dynamics, which is also fantastically done. I did enjoy the callback. I think it was Taylor that mentioned the hallway fight with the Jedi / Sith Lord or whatever, Ray Stevenson's character, where he's like, it was a callback to the scene in Rogue One, Darth Vader doing basically the same thing. I really enjoyed that. So there was a lot of good. Not much bad, so yeah, we cannot be too negative. At least I cannot. I think there's nothing much to do for us than to rate the first 2 episodes. Merv?
I'll go a very solid 8 out of 10, probably almost a 9 out of 10 as far as interest goes. But I'm reining myself back in so I don't get overhyped with the first couple episodes. I need to be disappointed by episode 6. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go 8 out of 10 for this.
Okay, Taylor.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and go 9 out of 10. If like I said, it felt like classic Star Wars. Star Wars has always. First of all, I see some people online complaining about things in the story. Why'd they do that? This is pulp. Star Wars has always been pulp. You can do that with every iteration of Star Wars, and I think Star Wars is really kind of at its best when it just kind of embraces that comic booky, pulpy storytelling and combined with the great special effects, the great music, the great action scenes, and the acting. Which Star Wars hasn't always had great acting, but this show so far has great acting.
Yeah.
So I think it all works just fine so far. So yeah, 9 out of 10.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to be unfair here because I'm going to use the Andor scale. Yeah. Sorry. I measure everything Star Wars to Andor now, and it does not live up to that standard yet. However, I do think it's better than most Star Wars outings, especially in the writing department and in the dialogue department. So I'm going to go with Merv here, and I'm going to go 8 out of 10. Seems fair. Is there anything you would like to add to our discussion, or are we good here?
The only other thing I'll say is that the puzzle scene with Ahsoka gave me Fifth Element vibes. I don't know if you guys have both seen the Fifth Element, but the even the triangular like oblong thing that came up that crumbled to dust, like that yes. Just reminded me so much of the Fifth Element, that whole sequence. But I liked it.
Okay, that's good. Taylor, anything to add?
I believe this season is going to be 8 episodes.
Correct.
And I'm assuming it's leading into the movie that they were talking about that is going to combine Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett and now Ahsoka storylines are all going to come together. So I'm expecting a somewhat open-ended ending on this, so I'm not going to be disappointed when that happens.
Okay. Do we expect characters from the other shows you just mentioned to show up in this? Because we just had a very big Mandalorian storyline in with Mandalore being restored and stuff like that. And I believe I saw Sabine Wren is also a Mandalorian. So, will Dave Filoni pull some toys out of his toy box?
I mean, I think it's very possible. I just hope they do it in a way that feels natural and not forced and not a completely random side quest type thing. I hope they have enough. If it's natural that they're going to come across one of these characters for some reason during this story, fine. That's great. But like an episode that feels like it's from a different show, like we had last time, Mandalorian. I don't think
the Book of Boba Fett had like 2 episodes that were the Mandalorian season 2.5. And the final of the Book of Boba Fett, the finale, still lives vividly in my mind, where he just took his toy box and threw it all over on the table and shot that. But anyway, Merv, you had a follow-up.
I just hope we get to see Tatooine at some point because I'm really craving some sand here.
Yeah. With that character, the lady mechanic with her droids has to show up at some point. Otherwise, it's not really Star Wars. Anyway,
Grand Admiral Thrawn is hiding out on Tatooine.
That's what it is.
that would be a twist. Anyway, when stuff goes down, I don't want to use the other S word. It's going down on Tatooine, people. That will conclude this review of Champions for Part 1, Master and Apprentice, and Part 2, Toil and Trouble of Ahsoka. We hope you have enjoyed our discussion today. If you did, you can help us out. Like and share this review, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you really want more of us, you can join our forum at sakar.freeforums.net. We would love it if you join us. For now, I want to thank you all, also on behalf of our champions, and wish you to be safe and be well. Bye.